Hey, how's it going, everybody out there in uh, Instagram land? Um, and uh, uh, oh wow, how's everybody doing tonight? It is actually 10:44 p.m., March the 31st, 2020. Yes, and we are talking about women's nature tonight. Um, how's everybody out there in YouTube land? Uh, If you're watching this live, great. If you're watching it on the recorded, fine. Please leave a comment at the bottom of the bottom there. Leave a comment about it. I'd love to hear back from you. I do respond to the comments. Um, one of these days I'm going to do a live feed um, where uh, where I interact with people and everything, and you can ask me questions and of that nature. But you want to know what a woman thinks when a man says "I do." Well, first of all, she smiles, and then she gives the biggest, wettest kiss that the guy ever got before in his life. Like a porn star wet kiss, right? But you know what she's really thinking in her head? I got this motherfucker now. It's exactly what she has. And she knows it too, because her influence is going to condition him on how he treats her and everything. Now, that's 90% of all marriages today. That's why 50% of all marriages fail, and 80% of the 50% is by the women who are married. That's why that happens, because men are not educated about women's nature. And I wished I had been educated about a woman's nature, because believe me, I wouldn't have tried to basically get involved with any woman at all whatsoever. I would have I would have used them, but I wouldn't have tried to get involved with any of them. Women are disposable, just like men can be disposable. Um, the only thing a woman is good for a man is childbearing, to carry on the lineage of a man. That's the only good reason for a woman. And guys, I hate to tell you this, that's the truth of it. And the thing is, um, if you want a good woman in your life, a good woman, you should be looking at how she responds to other people. Is she courteous? Is she kind? Does she, now don't get me wrong. I mean, you want a woman to have a backbone and everything else like that. But you want a woman to also be a lady. And you also want, because you know that she's going to be a good mother to the children you're going to have. She's going to be responsible for those children while you're out working. You know, I don't necessarily regard the man is the leader of the family unit. Basically, says it in the Bible. And if you look at the Bible, it's in Genesis chapter 2. She said, God said, "I will create a helper suit." When he's talking about Adam in the Garden of Eden, he says, "I will create for him a helper suitable for him." He never created a woman to be leaders. He said, "You are to be a helpmate." That's the role of a woman. And if you look at a woman's personality and what they do for their career and everything else like that, they will basically do things where they are not leading. They will be following. They will try to, and this is for the most part. This is not, now there are exceptions to the rule. There are some women who become CEOs and everything else like that, and have plans in their lives and everything else like that. Um, but you will find that a lot of these actresses and singers and stuff like that, once they get to a certain point, no matter how nice they are or how good looking they are, men no longer want them. And it doesn't matter how much money they have or anything else like that. It doesn't matter what the thing, because to a man, biologically, if she can't bear children, if she can't bear children, or I'm not turned on by her, and no amount of plastic is going to change that. And that's why, uh, you know, um, people like, actresses like Pam Anderson and stuff like that to this day are still single, because they were chasing people because they thought it was exciting. Women crave excitement like anything else. But what they don't crave is to be a good leader. And the thing is, most women will follow anything or anyone in front of them because they are by nature not good. And that's a fact of life. I don't care. I don't care whether a woman is a porn star, or I don't care whether a woman is the preacher's daughter. They all have the same nature that every other woman has. And they act on that same nature. Women are not, as far as we say, intelligent. They're just, they act foolishly. They act emotionally. They don't know what they're doing half the time and stuff. Um, I even to this day, uh, a woman will basically want to be with a man because of what he can do and provide. Now, in this age where we have coronavirus running around and the entire world is involved in the pandemic, we're finding that a lot of these women basically are turning around and going back to these men that are, shall I say, uh, men that they blew over. And then they're finding out that the men that they blew off basically are not interested in them anymore. Fact of life, you know. Here's the thing. I would say to a man who's 17, is graduating high school, if you got a girlfriend in high school, dump her. Go to college. Don't worry about having a girlfriend in college. Don't worry about that, you know, because number one, that's the rule that everyone puts in front of you. And that is, they are going to do whatever they want. The thing is, you need to be a guy, you need to be free and to do whatever you want. And if it works out that some woman likes you and you can engage in some promiscuous behavior, sure, why not? You know, but just remember one thing, guys. Tom Likas said, always wear a condom, and basically make sure if you're going to, you know, I've often found that basically it's better to have sex at your place rather than go to their place, because a lot of times basically their place is not necessarily that clean. And, you know, um, uh, so it's better to have sex over at your place. Um, you know, women are not that cleanly, and that's a fact of life. And you know, now my mother's mother, she lived in a small town in Pennsylvania, and she would clean the house daily because of the coal dirt that would come from the mines when they were mining coal when I was growing up. And I remember staying up there for a week, and I would help her do housework and help her carry groceries and stuff like that. Going back from the market in town, she would walk up to town. I mean, it was only it was only like 3 blocks to the center of town from where she lived. So it wasn't that far to walk. So this was a small town. You could walk from one end to the other in about a half an hour. It wasn't that big of a town. So the thing was the fact that for her to walk a few blocks to uh, the center of town to basically to the market to get what she needs was fine. We had the Acme Superstore at the end of town, which became some kind of general supermarket name now, but it used to be called the Acme, uh, and it was a supermarket at the end of town. But the thing was the fact that my grandmother stuck it out with my grandfather because, uh, and it was a supermarket at the end of town. But the thing was the fact that my grandmother stuck it out with my grandfather because nobody had of living and having a life, and she did. She was provided for. She had a house. She had a daughter who became my mother. Uh, you know, and then after my grandfather died, she lived for almost 10 years after that on her own till she was about 92, and then she died. And it's all sad to see her go, but you know everybody's time is everybody's time on this planet. We all have to go sometime. So enough of that. But anyways, women's nature and let's talk about the modern woman's nature. Most women, a good number of women today are feminists, and a feminist is a woman who wants to be always in control. Doesn't matter what it is, she wants to be in control. So she is going to pick somebody that is not good for her. She wants to be in control. And then the other women who pick like the Chads and the Tyrones that they basically want to play with all the time. And by playing, I mean having sex with. Uh, these Chads and Tyrones that they're hooking up with, um, that they play with, so to speak, these, you know, these are not the men that you would have for marriage, and they know it. They're looking to have a wild fling because, they're not thinking about marriage at the time. You know when they start thinking about marriage? When they hit 30 and men stop paying attention to them. You know, I remember when I was about 12 or 13, and I was we went to this church in Arlington, Virginia, so Lutheran church. And there was a young lady there. She was about 32, 33, and she was in a rush to have a baby. She couldn't wait to spit out a baby. I mean, that's all I heard. Oh, she's trying to have a baby. She's trying to have a baby. Well, this is a woman who was older who married a younger man. Now, why do you think she was so interested in having a baby right away? Number one, to lock him down because she knew that he was going to have a greater sexual market value over time. And by having a baby, limited his options to pursue that greater sexual market value. She knew it. That's why she was so interested in having a baby. You want to take a look at a woman that is, women will jump into bed with a guy for various reasons. And as Greg Adams would say, Coach Greg Adams would say, it is transactional. And that's generally what sex is transactional. It's not given to you freely. It's supposed to be given to you freely, but it's not given to you freely. It's given to you for a transactional reason. Um, a lot of women will give you sex in order to have a baby. There are some women out there who just want to have a baby. They're not concerned with your needs or anything else like that. All they want to do is get pregnant, and they'll use you to basically have a child. I remember a relationship I had with this one girl. She was from Peru. Uh, she actually came over to my apartment every Saturday night around midnight and she stayed till the morning. And the whole idea was to basically, you know, to have me get her pregnant. She was not concerned about anything else other than getting pregnant by me. And probably more than likely, she was just trying to have a baby to stay in the country. She was probably, somebody who was illegal, and because she didn't know much English, and she was looking to stay in the country. And she thought by getting pregnant, she could have an anchor baby to stay in the country because her child would be born an American citizen because there was an American man who got her pregnant, which would have led me on the hook for child support. And I thank God that I never got that woman pregnant. I used I used proper precautions to make sure that I would never get her pregnant. You know, um, it didn't last very long though because she would come over And she would call me on the phone first around 11 o'clock. She said, well, come on over. And then, and I remember one night she called and I had to work. I had to get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to work the next day. And I said, look, I got to work in the morning. We can't do this. Not tonight. And, and, you know, and then she kept calling me. And finally I put the phone on thing and I ignored her. Well, she stopped calling after that. Well, the reason why was because, not that I didn't want to see her. It's just that she, she, she just basically got upset with me for that very reason. So, women's nature in this country is not about continuing the bloodline for themselves and the man they want to be with, to form a relationship with a man. A woman's bloodline is because, and number one, basically, a woman will have, by the time I'd say from the age of 16 to the age of 30, will have about 10 times as many sexual partners as a man will. And I will say this because, if you're a guy and you meet a girl and you really like her and everything, and you take her to prom and stuff in high school, you might get lucky. Might get lucky and might get laid. That might be your first piece of, that might be your first piece of tail. Or you go to college, or you go to the military, and then you get your first piece of tail. But that's what it is. You get your first piece of tail. More than anything else, that's what it always is, your first piece of tail. So, for a guy, it's kind of like a rite of passage. Hey, got laid, this is great, So, but for a woman, it's different, because a woman is giving something, is trading something for something. She's giving you my body for trading it for something else. As Coach Greg Adams would say, all sex is transactional. And that's pretty much the truth of it. It's all transactional. Anytime you have sex with a woman, it's transactional. There's a reason why she's having sex with you. The obvious reason is she wants to have a baby. The other obvious reason is to basically keep you locked into her. Hopefully to have you drained out to the point where basically you can't think straight and want to be with her. Because, guys, and we do this all the time, we confuse sex for love. And that's a fact of life. I did it too. We confuse sex for love. And that's a fact of life. So, anyways, we need to start being wiser about our choices as men, knowing what a woman's nature is. Now, a woman's nature is to secure resources for childbearing. And is the guy going to stick around long enough? That's generally what it used to go for. Now it goes for, from the age of 18 to the age of 29, I'm going to be a slut. And then I'm going to be a slut, go around and sleep with as many guys as I want. Don't care how many abortions I have. Then when I hit 29, okay, I need to settle down with, now that my vagina's been all used up by 20 or 30 guys, and that's a conservative estimate, because if a woman has the really high sexual market value, literally she can have sex with over 100 guys. There are women, like, for instance, there was, what was the athlete, the basketball athlete that basically, he was diagnosed with HIV or something like that. I think it was Magic Johnson or whatever. But anyways, he had like some kind of a thing where he had sex with over 100 women. There are women out there that have body counts even higher than that. And the thing is, as a man looking for a woman to wife and raise children with, is the kind of woman you want to be with, a woman who has basically had 100 men run through her, and everything else like that. You couldn't even pair bond with a woman like that for that very reason. A woman like that doesn't deserve marriage. She doesn't deserve your respect. She doesn't deserve your honor. What she does deserve is basically a relationship um, until you either get tired of her or she gets tired of you, and then let her go away. She's not worth it. You know, you know, get some sex out of it if you want to, but don't tie the knot with this woman. Don't sit around here. You see why guys wait 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years sometimes before they sit down and marry a woman. And they do that. They do that because number one, they're trying to find out the true nature of a woman. Um, when a woman puts an ultimatum on a guy, my thing is, no matter how much you love this woman, say you're in a relationship, you've got like 5 years invested into this woman, and you're actually thinking about popping the question because you've been with her for 5 years. Um, and all of a sudden, she puts the ultimatum in front of you. Well, I've invested 5 years, blah blah blah. I need to know, are you going to be here with you? Well, the point of the matter is you're there with her now. So what is she asking? She's asking for you to sign a contract that puts the state above the both of you in a relationship, that if the contract fails, she gets about 3/4 of the resources if there's children involved. And that's pretty much what she's asking. That's why when a man says, I do, and a marriage ceremony and a woman smiles and everything like that, you know what she's thinking? I got this motherfucker now. That's exactly what she's thinking. Fact of life. Um, you know, and for us guys, we're left for, if I don't know, if you're say 30 and you got married for the next 20 to 25 years, paying off her liabilities. You may not even be married to her, but you're still paying for her liabilities, the children, the the house, everything else like that, while you're basically stuffed in a studio apartment somewhere, going back and forth to work as a slave. And I think as men, I think we deserve better than that, for we're putting our butts on the line. And if women today want equality, true equality, then basically, because the feminists always bring up people in government, CEOs of companies and things of that nature, they never look down. They never look at the lower forms of labor like construction workers, uh, uh, you know, engineers that work in the sewage tunnels. They never look at they never look at they never look at oil riggers or any of those other hard laboring tasks. Why? Because that's not what they want. You know, like for instance, if you go to a construction company and you'll find a cute girl working in the shack, in the construction shack right there. Um, you know, she's there for two reasons. Number one, to do the clerical work. Number two, to basically hook up with the boss, because that's what she wants. She wants the boss. She doesn't want the guy that's working out there on the rig, or she doesn't want the guy working up on the I-beams that are putting up the new skyscraper. She wants the guy that's running that company. That's why she's there. She's not looking, there's no career for her there. The career is to get that guy. You know, most men don't seem to understand that or realize that, but that's the truth in a woman. A woman will always be never at the starting line, but she'll always be at the finishing line. And that's a fact of life in the man's race for life. And that's a fact of life. It's very rare that a woman will be altruistic and basically want to give herself to a guy who basically sacrificed everything for somebody else. Um, she wants security. She's going to get security. Either way, women are security creatures. They are herd creatures. They follow the herd. Men, we are not. We are leaders. We are basically this. Now, I, being a man, I wanted to choose my own path, my own way. Now, since my mother had her demise with her stroke and everything, the only person that I could take care of my mother was me. I couldn't let my brother do it because, number one, he was not capable of doing it. And my sister had her own family to deal with. So, and now with this coronavirus, basically, we had a care worker come in. She basically called off and said that she didn't want to risk it anymore. I could understand why. We already had a person come in on Wednesday to basically clean up the house. That person is no longer there. We are looking at this coronavirus has changed, and has changed behaviors, and has changed how people do things. I wish there was something that could change this, but unless, of course, there's some kind of a miracle from God, we're just going to have to wait for a cure to be found, and the intervention of drugs that could be FDA approved to fight this disease, like hydrochloroquine, that has been used in trials to treat this disease. It's used for other things. My mother uses the drug for keeping fluid out of her lungs, but for the most part, women are going to have to change, because, number one, most women today that I see or talk to are basically looking for someone to take over for them. They don't want to be left alone. Excuse me. It's getting late. It's 11:10 p.m. March the 31st. So tomorrow will be April the 1st, and I have to get a wedding invitation in the mail to decline it because I'm not going down to Florida, not on April the 30th. So, anyways, to all you people here on YouTube, leave a comment below on what I've said, and I'll get back to you later, and we'll see what happens with this, with COVID-19, and go from there. So anyways, God bless. May the Lord bless you, keep you, and may the Lord take care of you all. God bless everybody. Good night.